So, welcome to part two of the alopecia story. In this episode, what I bring to you guys is an interview with a dermatologist and his own experience dealing not only with alopecia, but also dealing with patients who have had alopecia or still do. Thank you. So, starting off, I want to start with just like a basic introduction. So, I want to start with what's your name and your profession?
Nelson Mayen. I am a clinical therapist. I'm an MFT, so I'm a marriage and family therapist.
Okay, so I know like we've had our previous sessions before, and you've helped me a lot to like understand about myself and a lot about how I can deal with this condition myself. But what I really want to dive into is, as you told me before, that you had or have alopecia, and
How were you able to tell?
just a hunch.
Go on.
But I remember you telling me, and I was just wondering how that has affected you. Not only like in your professional life, but maybe going back to your personal life as well. But I wanted to start with, could you share your personal experience with alopecia and how it influenced you or like, your approach as a therapist?
Okay. Well, how it's affected me?
Yeah.
I would say, well, definitely it was something that I think I was kind of denying closer to 2014, 2015, around there. I was getting some like hair thinning and things like that, and I was just like I would see a random picture of myself, and I was like, what is going on back there? And ultimately, actually, it was a picture that somebody posted, and I was like, oh, I didn't know it was like that, you know? And I was like, I can either just, find like have a bald spot like that or whatever, and just, or I could just shave it off.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, I was like, you know what? Let me just shave it off. I'm not like I used to have like crazy hair. Actually, it was like pretty long and everything. And then so I knew it was gonna be a big change, but I was about to start grad school, and I was like, maybe that's like part of my new beginning, right? Starting grad school, shaving my head, and then that's ultimately what I ended up doing. Yeah, there was a second part to your question. I don't know.
Yeah.
What?
How's it influenced your approach as a therapist?
I think as far as how I mean, I don't know if it directly influences my approach exactly, but I will say that for certain people, whether they are experiencing their own like form of like alopecia or something like that, it is something where it's like I understand it on some level, right? I may not know it in the exact same way that my client might know it exactly, but I can do my best to empathize with that since I do have experience myself.
So like
yeah.
it allows you to connect with them.
Yeah.
More, okay.
Yeah.
And do you think your alopecia, maybe things you could have experienced, let's say any like mistreatment or just out from bullying from others, let's say, you think that has led to you wanting to like become a therapist, or it led to you wanting to like find a way to have people avoid feeling that way if you felt like a certain way?
Wait, so is it like if I experienced something related to like any negative experiences related to the alopecia?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say bullying, but I would say I do notice that some people look at me as though like I'm a cholo or something, like I'm a gangster or something, and I get that. And it is only when they get to talk to me that they realize I'm very silly. Like it's just how I play. It's just like, but I do have RBF, so it's like I could see how it kind of like somebody might be put off by me.
They might like misinterpret it.
Yeah, or just be like intimidated by me, and I'm not somebody to be intimidated by. Like I'm not a fighter by any means in that way. So yeah.
Yeah. How do you support your clients who are struggling with like an emotional impact from alopecia?
How would I support? Well, can I ask you? What would he say is something that was like supportive for you? Where you felt like I was supporting you on that? Because this is an ongoing conversation, right? It's not just like, oh, I did that one thing.
Yeah.
He's fine now. He doesn't think about that anymore.
The best part was you would listen. Like I could tell you what it was I was feeling, or what was that happened, and you would just listen, you know. It was like you listen to me before you would give me some input, and I think that helps a lot, because I think it does help when you have someone to listen to you, especially with, I had a pretty negative experience growing up with alopecia.
Right.
So I went to like a predominantly like white school, and it's already weird enough being one of the only Hispanic kids out of school where it's predominantly white, but then also being with the only kid that was bald. So it's like you get like a negative experience where you get negative comments, things like that. So I remember I would share them to you, and you kind of just tell me like, it is what it is, you know. Like I feel like you kind of told me, hey, they don't know what's happening, so why care, you know. I feel like that was one of the best things, but also the things we did, like the techniques we developed, like writing things down, and kind of like the breathing techniques we worked on. I feel like that also helped to lower a lot of the stress.
Yeah.
A lot of like the emotional toll, because I knew that I could have someone to trust, you know.
Got it.
But also, like, what would you say to people who, let's say, don't have this connection with someone else, or they feel like they can't talk to others? What do you think would be the best scenario for them to do in that situation?
I mean, now there's so many ways to deal with alopecia, right? I mean, I think even, you know, some people might even say like finding community or something like that, right? Like, I'm sure there are plenty of support groups, right? Finding people that have a similar experience as you do, and sharing and seeing how they manage it, and seeing how you could potentially manage it. I think those are all like important ways to see how to like manage it and everything. Yeah.
So,
as well. And like I said, like yeah, internet communities, and a lot of that can be really helpful for a lot of people, actually.
I wanted to ask, what are like some of the common emotional or like the psychological challenges that you've noticed that people with alopecia have?
Yeah, I think an increased like awareness of your own self, like I feel like even when I had a lot of hair, right, I would always go to like a barber and like to get my hair cut, and I always thought it looked ridiculous, right? And I always thought everyone thinks my haircut looks stupid right now, right? And you always have this like perception that like, oh my god, everyone is paying attention to me, like this heightened sense of awareness towards yourself. I think that is quite common. Along with that, what comes with that as well, I would say a bit of anxiety, a bit of decreased self-esteem, depressed mood is like a pretty big one as well, right? Because for a lot of people, even for me when it was first happening, to some extent, actually, people people would comment on my hair a lot back when I was in high school, and so in some way it was kind of part of my identity, right? And so it was like, oh, it's my hair, it's me. And then when you don't have that, you're like, oh shit, like that's just, I don't have that part of myself anymore. You're still you, right? But that thing that you connected so intrinsically within yourself, like, is no longer there. And so it's like, okay, I lost that part of my physical appearance, That's something that, so sorry. Yeah, that's something that a lot of people experience.
Do you think like this can lead to people like not feeling, or for sure it leads to people not feeling comfortable with others, but what about not feeling comfortable with themselves? Do you think like let's say the decreased awareness, or the increased awareness, sorry, and the decreased like self-esteem leads to people not feeling comfortable, like, say, in their own bodies?
I would say so. Yeah, I think that would be quite common. I feel like just unsure of themselves. I think it works together, right? Not feeling well, like, socially, and then by yourself, like in your own body, I feel like that goes hand in hand. Yeah, you might be by yourself, looking at yourself in a mirror, and it's like you're just with your own self. Some people don't like what they see when they experiencing that. But
what are like some specific coping strategies that you see not only in your patients with alopecia, but just in your patients in general, that have helped them to, who are struggling with like low self-esteem, that have helped them to rebuild that confidence in themselves?
Yeah.
And let's say focusing more on like an alopecia lens, what has helped them to feel comfortable like in their own bodies?
I think, I mean, there's so many things you can do, right? So I think for a lot of people, it might even be really helpful to even engage in mindfulness, right? And just sort of like sit with that emotion that you're experiencing right now. Like doing a lot of mindfulness work. I think even a lot of like either reframing of like the alopecia that you are having, doing a lot of like it's a lot of it's mental, of course, right? Because a lot of people aren't even thinking about it as often as you are, right? And so to some extent it's all like how you're perceiving it, right? I know many people that are that do have alopecia, and they are like the most social people ever, more social than some people that have a lot of hair or whatever, like, and maybe aren't as social or something like that. It's all how you play with it, right? And so I think there's a lot of that you can do, actually. Yeah, challenging a lot of the negative schemas and everything that you have on your own self in that moment is something that's very important.
Just like going back, you were diagnosed with alopecia when you were in high school?
No. Well, okay. There's a bit more
Right.
to that, right? So, I had a lot of medical issues in high school. So actually, there was like a solid year where I actually had to shave my head. And so that was my first experience, right? And that's actually, that wasn't even related to alopecia at all. In fact, at that time, I didn't even know that I had so much family that had alopecia. That was the first glimpse that I had, right, in high school, right? So there was definitely a lot of like almost like embarrassment at first and everything. So that was something to get used to. And then by the time that I had to do it when I had to shave my head again in 2016, I want to say, I didn't get diagnosed. It was just like, oh yeah, it's quite clear. It's one of those things.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think would have been the best thing that someone could have done for you in that situation?
And that's which part?
Exactly. The second time you shaved your head, where you were like, okay, so I have alopecia. What do you think would have been like the best piece of advice someone could have given you?
For me, and this is not gonna work for a lot of people, but for me it was just one of those things where it's like I knew I was gonna go through with it. The best thing that I found for myself in that moment was just to write it and just even at times like laugh about it. I had both when I was in high school and then when I was in around 2016 when I had to shave it, or when I wanted to shave it. My friends and I were just having fun shaving my head and everything. Like that was something that kind of added like this sense of like, I'm going through it, but we're laughing, and it's like this is just an adjustment, right? I think that was something that was really helpful. Of course, having friends that were like, not gonna treat me any different. They were probably gonna crack jokes, and honestly, I'm the kind of person where it's like I do like that though. Right. It's just funny. But again, not many people are gonna find that funny.
Yeah.
It just happened to work for me.
But I think in the same way, like your friends were in a way your support group in that situation.
They were, and the thing is, they would say some things that I could not say in this interview, and they were bad, like, oh my god, you could not say that anywhere else. But yeah, it was just like that thing where like I knew they were joking around, but at the same time it's like there's a sense of like love underneath all of that, right? Where it's just like, hey, we're gonna support our friend. And I'm very much the kind of person where it's like I don't like a lot of attention on me like that, and so they were able to do it where it's like it's funny, but I knew they cared about me. Right. Ultimately they would check in on me and everything, and so that was really helpful for me.
It's like the hard love.
And I wouldn't have changed it at all, actually. Yeah.
Do you think that helped you build up, let's say, your confidence in a way?
It has, yeah, because I think it kind of, it's like, damn, that's one thing that I thought I had going for myself, having a whole head of hair, and it's just like, well, I'm not. That's the thing. I'm not my hair, right? My hair was a part of me at some point, and so I think it's something where it's like, well, I could. Again, this goes back to the thing I was saying, like reframing, right? I could be. Right, this is all funny to me, but like I could be like, I could be just in my head, oh, I'm just bald and I do these things. Or I could be, you know, very outspoken. I could be extroverted and blah blah blah, and I happen to deal with alopecia, right? Like there's a lot of that where it's just like, oh yeah, and eventually I'm like, you know what, I do like the way that I look, like how I shave it and everything, and it's just like, it took a while, you know, but I feel like my face had to grow around it a little bit, you know.
It became part of your identity now.
Yeah, definitely. Like I this was in 2016. So like it's about to, well, yeah, it's like 8 years. So I cut it before September of 2016. So yeah, like 8 years at this point, and so it's just I show people like photos of myself previously, and they're like, "Whoa, what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I used to have hair, you know." And it just that's what it is. Yeah.
And it was like, what would you say is the best way to deal with that if you're feeling like mixed emotions about keeping it or not? What would you say would be the best way to go about that?
As far as keeping it or not,
Right.
I mean, it has to make sense to you, you know. I can't, there's so much of it that I can't explicitly like speak on, right? Even in your experience, that was way different than my experience, right? Like that's why I say, like, I understand it for myself, right? And I can do my best to understand it for you, but it's like I will never know it the way that you know it, right? Because like I didn't go through that at that age when they were already having to cut your hair and everything like that. You said, well, I feel like you asked like two different questions, but like the main one being, what do I say about keeping it or not keeping it? I think people are gonna listen to yourself.
Right.
You know, just listen to yourself. What do you feel like would be best for you? So I can't tell somebody, hey, you should like definitely like cut your hair or whatever. I think they would look good, you know. Like I said, I was in denial for my own, and so just like it was for me, it is quite the same for other people, where they're gonna do it. If they do it, they're gonna do it when they're ready. You know, you can't push them, you can't pull them. You might just check in on it and be like, hey, what's going on? And then they might come to it by themselves, and they might see one photo where you're like, oh, maybe it'll look fine if I end up doing.
Thank you. Just to finish off, what do you think is the best piece of advice you could give to somebody at this stage?
I think, as with anything, we're all social creatures, right? I think community is a big one, you know. Sitting with yourself and like just like, you know, just I think mindfulness is a big one, I would say, for a lot of people. Community is probably the biggest one for me personally. That's, if you could find that, if you could find people maybe even that have experienced the same thing as you, then that would be great. I think that would be incredibly supportive, and it would be crucial. Yeah.
As you shared yours with me.
Yeah.
So for that, I want to thank you and thank you for participating in this interview.
I want to thank you guys for tuning in to part 2 of the alopecia story. Stay tuned for part 3, where we have an interesting episode coming up.